Hello, everyone. My name is Aman Kidwai. I'm a workplace reporter at Insider. Over the course of the pandemic, we've learned just how important it is for companies to take care of their people. As a result, business leaders have a new set of responsibilities when it comes to shaping the employee experience. They're expanding benefits, allowing more flexibility in scheduling, and being more comfortable with remote work. I'm joined by Holly Faurot, Chief Sales Officer at Paycom. Holly's here to share her expertise on the importance of user-friendly technology at work. And we've also got Miranda Blakelock from the Kraft Group. Miranda has a bunch of great ideas for how HR can adapt to this new era and new set of responsibilities. Holly, Miranda, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We'll start with you, Miranda. How has your perception of a company's responsibility for the employee experience, how has your perception of that changed over the past 12 to 14 months?
We've really seen a change in how employees are expecting to do their work, and also how we treat our employees, to think about it's more than just a job to them. This is really a blend between their personal life and their work life. And how do we make things easier for them so that way when they're at work, they can focus on the work, and when they're at home and working with their loved ones and having fun on the weekends or in the evenings, it's really more about their time and trying to maximize that balance between the two.
In your experience, where does technology play into that? And with the impetus to use a number of different kinds of new technologies to help us in the workplace, how do you also overcome the potential of technology fatigue?
And that's a real problem, right? As we've learned with people working from home, they're not ever turning their technology off. And so the blur between working 9 to 5 has really changed in this new model. So what we've really tried to make sure is that employees have easy access to technology. For instance, with utilizing our Paycom as our HRS system, employees can put in their PTO request on their phone. It's just like a consumer technology. So they can ask for PTO, they can put in their tax information, they can look at their schedules just at the push of a button. And so that way it's easy, simple, one step at a time. And so there are not multiple levels of them having to go in and do the work that they used to have to do in person with their HR partners.
And Holly, we've seen so much change about the kind of digital channels with which employees are working in and communicating. How are you seeing people adapt their overall strategy in that front in terms of managing a digital experience that employees are having?
Miranda kind of mentioned it before, but I think over the last, 12 to 16 months that employees had an increased amount of interaction with consumer technology, right? We were utilizing apps more than ever last year, and a lot of that because we were home and we couldn't even leave. So that was the only way for us to make things happen. With that, employees are coming back into the workplace now with that same type of expectation. So they want to have the same type of experience that they've had with Amazon or maybe their local pizza place. That's something that companies need to realize. And there's a very, very low tolerance of complexity for employees. I think of myself, if I log onto an app and it takes me more than a few seconds to understand how it works or what I need to do, I'm probably going to log off and go and download another app. Employees, they don't necessarily have that option because the companies are the ones that are investing in the technology. So companies have to invest in technology with the employee in mind. If an employee doesn't see the ease of the technology, if it's not easy to find, if it's not easy to log in, they are going to go back to their manual ways. And for the organization, that's devastating for them because they've invested thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars into technology that they can't get their full return of investment. So as companies are choosing technology, they really have to make sure that it fits the employee first on that side, because that's how they're going to see the benefits long-term for the organization.
And Miranda, to go a little bit deeper into that, in addition to, of course, providing new technology and new systems, we also have to take care of the people, right? We have needs and families and everything else going on in the world. And I think over the past, 12, 14 months again, we've seen kind of a greater responsibility for employers to really help people more holistically. How have you guys gone about approaching that? And what does that look like for you guys?
Man, it's a great question. So we've really taken to using a tool within Paycom so that all of our data would be integrated to really survey employees. So not just your typical engagement survey every year, but starting to think about how we can meet them at their needs, at their timing. So we survey all of our new hires every week. We survey our employees after a game day. After the Revolution wins a game, we survey them to see how they can improve that experience when they are coming to work. So we're really trying to focus on the employee experience and engaging them so that way we can continue to improve their experience versus just looking at the numbers of how many people were on staff that day and how did that work out. So we're really trying to take a more employee centric approach in order to kind of drive our business goals and really start to form our business strategy around our human capital needs.
And what does that look like? What have been some of the kind of new policies you've had to implement in order to make that happen?
So it's been pretty far reaching. So whether that's looking at different ways of scheduling our employees, we've accommodated that. As people have worked differently over the past 12 to 14 months, whether it's been work from home, which has not been our standard before this, or working from the office, but trying to think about space differently. For instance, when we have a game, our employees that are coming in used to come through thousands of employees in just a few moments to try and clock in. And they were all standing around a whole bunch of time clocks, trying to punch in like the old days, making sure that they were on site. With that, and with our manufacturing group who've had to work during the pandemic, we've had to think about things differently and think about safety and COVID. And so we've actually turned on an app within Paycom so that we can geofence. So as soon as they're within the footprint of the building, they can clock in, and thinking about their safety versus just the normal mechanics of human resources issues like timekeeping and payroll issues.
Holly, from your perspective, you're working with so many HR leaders and working with them through this very fast moving, very fast changing times. What have you seen from this group of your clients in terms of how their usage of your platform has changed over the past year in order to kind of meet these new needs?
Well, one thing that we definitely realize is how much our clients care about their employees and how they see the connection to happy employees and healthy organizations. So it's really been amazing going through this experience and kind of holding people's hands and learning from them. Someone like Miranda that's done all of these incredible things over the last few months. It's really been incredible watching them go and make these changes that are best for the employee. When it comes to just the technology that they're doing, I think companies care so much, but the one thing that they need is they need time to come up with these strategies and think through. We went through something that has never been done before in HR organizations. There wasn't a playbook like they have for the Patriots, right? There wasn't this playbook that Miranda could flip open and say, hey, this is what we do in this situation. So they needed time to be able to sit down on Zoom with each other, think about how are we going to continue operating as a business, but how are we going to protect our number one asset? So with Paycom's system, what we're able to give our organizations is time. The time that they would have spent updating addresses and making changes to time and attendance punches and updating PTO in the system, they're actually able to have the employee take ownership of those changes within the system. And they were able to use that time to come with the real strategies that made a difference with organizations. So in terms of our DDX with Paycom, the direct data exchange, the usage has never been higher. And it really did start taking off when we went from work from home because it was no longer an option. It was no longer a best practice. It was the only practice that you could actually use in order to spend that time. So we were just very, very grateful that we were able to help companies like the Kraft Group during that period of time, and to see what they were able to do was just incredible. It makes, the job so fulfilling on our side to be able to partner with executives like that.
The direct data exchange has really been a game changer for us. So like Holly mentioned, we didn't have an HR playbook for how to deal with a pandemic. But as we've gone along over this past year, we've been monitoring our direct data exchange score, which is basically how is our HRIS system performing? Are we optimizing it? So each month we look at it. I actually look at it first thing each day. So if we see employees are doing more manual work, we can actually create a team, problem solve, and really take a Lean Six Sigma approach to try and improve that employee experience so that we're managing it in the moment. And then we can see the results the next month as we see our exchange rate go up. The DDX score goes up to show that employees are doing more of those things themselves, and it's an easier process for them. And so we see the manual work from HR decrease, which is good because as we are all experiencing, it's always a challenge to do even more work during these times with less people on site. So it's really been a great tool for us. So it's become our kind of HR playbook, and it is a little bit like a game. So just after each month, we just take it just like the Patriots just won a game, but we go and look at our game film and the DDX score and see how we could do it better next month. So it's been a great tool for us. And from a process improvement standpoint, it's really been a game changer.
That's so interesting. And yeah, Holly, I heard that Miranda is a bit of a superstar within the Paycom organization. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, we love working with Miranda. I mean, it's obvious just meeting with her today, everyone on this call, you're going to see her love and her passion for the people that she works with. And not only that love and that passion, but just the strategy behind it. She's constantly thinking about what can she do from an employee's perspective, but also for the business. And that's what you want, right? You want someone that's looking out for both sides there. And she does that. And like she said before, she's utilizing the information that Paycom is putting in front of her, but she doesn't stop there. She takes that information, she digs into it, she sees the detail of, did we have a manager go in and make a change on an employee's behalf? Maybe they were doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They wanted to go in and they wanted to make the employee's life easier, but that's taking away from the game plan that they have for the Kraft Group, right? They want to get the managers back there doing the work and the employees back in there doing the work that they should be doing. So we just truly appreciate her. She's constantly pushing on different sides, and we hope that we're making her organization better, but her feedback to us is definitely making Paycom better. So we appreciate you.
You guys are going to make me blush.
No, I think it's important. It's important to have that, like you said, the two-way feedback to be able to kind of on both sides, be able to share different best practices or ideas for improving things. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the organizational stakeholders, Miranda, that you have on the HR team. Of course, you care first and foremost about the employees and the employee experience, but there are some other people in the company you have to work with to make that happen. And kind of sticking with the theme here, one of those, because of the technology, is IT. And so I was wondering, how has your relationship with IT counterparts changed or improved? And even to what extent is maybe this new technology need reflected on the people even within the HR department?
That's a great question. So we are very fortunate here at the Kraft Group to have just the gold star of IT teams. So we work with them quite closely. They're really an extension of us, just like our vendor partners like Paycom are, where the right hand and the left hand, and HR is usually right in the middle to try and make sure that everything is connecting and working together. So we're very fortunate to have such a strong relationship. But what we've seen during the past 12 to 14 months is that it's not just the technology, but you also are having to tell the story out of it. And so we're fortunate in that having a single solution for us with Paycom, we're able to pull that data out and start to really get into some in-depth analysis. And that goes back to kind of our frontline leaders as well. And so we're able to really maximize our role as HR. And we've really kind of transformed that HR role to be much more data centric and really strong business partners. And so our HR colleagues, which I'm fortunate to have the best HR team around, are all really strong at looking at data and starting to tell that story. And that's really become a change for HR, I think, just not here, but it's going to be everywhere, so that we're speaking the same language as our business leaders, so that we can help influence those decisions and really start building our strategy for business growth with the human capital strategy along with that. And that's really the HR role kind of being redefined as we go.
And Holly, to you, kind of similar question, but just, again, from your perspective, seeing so many different companies implement your systems, how do you coach them through working with their technology partners and making sure that implementation goes smoothly?
Well, we are very, very blessed on our side to have such an incredible implementation process. Miranda talked about a team approach from her side, but that's honestly what we do from the Paycom's perspective. We know that a lot of our clients have only been through one or maybe two transitions in their career. At Paycom, we're going through one or two transitions every second. So we've been able to build upon that knowledge coming in with best practices, really being able to lead from an implementation side and understanding the responsibilities of each person. There are a lot of principles within each implementation. Which areas are they focused on? What matters the most to them? So we really try to work with them. We spend a lot of time together during the beginning of the process, understanding everyone's needs and what they're ultimately trying to accomplish. And that's what we're there for, right? We're there to make the Crafts Group's visions come alive with our technology and our resources on the back end. So that's really how we end up working with everyone. And it's just making sure everyone understands that their role, their responsibility, it matters. If we're truly going to help elevate the employees, everyone has to come together and everyone has to understand what are those key metrics that we have to hit. We've seen clients in the past who have come in and they're excited about being employee centric, right? They're excited about giving power back to an employee, giving them ownership. But when it comes to the implementation, sometimes they might lean back towards some of the old processes of managing it. And sometimes you just need us there telling you it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Another group that we need to work with in the interest of improving employee experience is the folks in finance, right? The people in charge of the purse strings. This could also be line of business leaders. How do you work with them to make that financial case for investment of time, money, other resources in order to improve or make changes to the employee experience? We'll start with Miranda for that.
I was going to say, this is right up my alley. So we have a strong relationship with our finance team as well. And I think that most HR teams really have to straddle that line of being both the employee advocate, but also wearing a business hat. And I think the challenge with that is being able to speak the same language. And so part of that is being able to have the data to support why you're making your human capital strategy and go to your finance team and your business leaders to say, here's what the data shows us. So that way you're not taking an emotional approach, because business leaders and finance in particular speak in terms of data and dollars. And so you're really coming to them in their language to say, here's what I was able to find out. So if we show that if we adjust our schedules by this amount, we actually will have a greater satisfaction rate, but we also will be able to see this much in savings from overtime because we'll have less employees call out. And so we're really having to think creatively about how do we analyze the data coming out of the system, because human capital data is one of the biggest fields right now there is. But then how do you translate that story back to our business leaders and make it easy and actionable for them? So it's not just data analytics, but you're starting to look at predictive and prescriptive analytics. And that's really the future of HR, I believe, to start to say very specifically, if we take this action based off of the information that we currently have, we can expect to see this result. And that's just like we see on the manufacturing line. So if we have a computer screen monitoring how many boxes we're putting out at one of our great factories, we're able to also see that from the human resources side to start to manage that human capital better. So that way we can focus on doing the things that we really enjoy, which is engaging the employees and helping give them the workplace that they want and deserve.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that. I know it can be really tough for people sometimes to make that case. So good inside intel there. We've got about a minute left, and so just wanted to run a quick lightning round by you guys. If you had just kind of one takeaway or idea on improving employee experience that you'd want to share with peers or other folks in charge of people, and you wanted to share that really quickly, what would that be?
I'll start, Holly. So mine would be make it easy. The last thing we want is employees to be having to struggle with the processes and policies that HR puts in place. We want us to be kind of the friendly face that's making their lives better when they're at work. So being able to request PTO in a few seconds on their phone makes their life better.
I love that. Well, for me, I would tell you to look at the technology through the employee's lens. And what I mean by that is actually sit down and look how employees are utilizing the technology each and every day. If you don't know, ask, bring them in. We actually take a lot of our clients through an employee experience meeting where we go through the lens of the employee. And that's where you're going to see the opportunity and you're going to see what they see on their side. Make it easy, lower the complexity, and you're going to see a huge return on that investment.
Excellent. Well, Holly, Miranda, thank you so much for your time and your insight. I think we learned a lot about staying agile, keeping up with employee needs, and doing what we can to improve the employee experience, especially as things get more challenging. So thank you both so much for the time and the insight.